Hi, welcome back to the Aspire podcast. We're so glad you joined us today. And speaking of joining us, we are joined by a very special guest, a good friend and a fellow LCSW, Samantha Nusom, who is the owner of Nu Solace Therapy in South Jersey.
Yes, thank you for having me
here.
Welcome
to the podcast. One of Samantha's specialties is anxiety, and specifically how anxiety affects relationships, which is what we're going to kind of focus on today and talk about. But I'm just curious, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into this work, how that became a specialty and a passion for you?
Yeah, where do I start? Well, I'll admit that one of the main reasons I got into this is because I love trash reality shows. Love is Blind, 90 Day Fiancé, Married at First Sight. So here I am always looking at the TV, those shows, and like analyzing like, why? So this is why this person's doing that. And how come they're not saying that? So that has been such a bad hobby of mine for years now. But aside from that, I think one of the pivotal points in my life came after I got married. So I got married in 2020, but I didn't open up my practice part-time until 2022.
Okay.
And then I went full-time into my practice 2024. But in the midst of all that, I had started my own therapy, seeing my own therapist. And through that journey, I started to learn how some of the things that I was doing in my marriage actually derived from my childhood. And that was quite the realization for me, for that insight to really just come and for me to learn, okay, this is why I do what I do in conflict or in arguments that maybe before I just never really paid attention to.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think probably the third reason why I decided to specialize in this is because anxiety showing up in relationships for me as far as parenting goes.
Sure.
Being a step parent and how some of the things that activated me in parenting also coming from my childhood.
Yes.
So I think all of that on top of watching those reality shows really inspired me to specialize in anxiety around relationship issues.
Yeah, no, I love that it's both the personal and the entertainment hobby that kind of, that's pretty interesting. So already I'm going to throw a definition at you. You mentioned saying I'm activated as a parent. Can you describe for all of our listeners and watchers just what that means in the therapy world? Yeah,
so activated, I know a lot of people talk about triggers. Things that trigger us, right? So the trigger is the actual situation, event, factor. And what I mean by activation is, okay, what is coming up for you, right? So a lot of it are feelings. A lot of it are sensations. They could also be thoughts. So that's what I noticed in parenting. I was getting activated through some of the things that were triggering me in those moments.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for defining that. And I think that's important distinction, right? The trigger is the thing that's happening, the external factor around you, and activation is what you're internally experiencing as you're addressing or going through that trigger.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So once you got into your practice and you kind of started learning more about anxiety and how it affects relationships, one of the other things I know you're well versed in is attachment. So how did the focus on anxiety in relationships kind of lead to a focus on attachment?
Yeah, so anxiety in relationships led to attachment because, as we know, there are four main attachment styles. The one that is very awesome and positive
what
is
we
secure,
all want, right?
What we all ideally want. But what I found is that so many of my clients and even myself throughout the years come from a different type of attachment style, right? So we have the avoidant one, we have the disorganized one, and then we have the anxious one, right? So through those other three attachment styles is what I notice a lot with my clients. So anxiety can show up in any of those three.
Right.
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 Now, I'm not saying that in your secure attachment that
Like you'll never have anxiety.
Right.
That's not
realistic.
true. Right.
Right. Yeah. We all have feelings.
Yeah.
Even the ones that we don't
Right.
enjoy, right? Even the painful ones. But when anxiety shows up in the three other attachments, then we'll start to learn and see how that starts to navigate in how we behave or how we act and how we communicate, how we resolve conflict in relationships.
Yes. And I love talking about attachment. Attachment is my jam. I love it. So I'm so excited to kind of have this conversation. And I think it's something that we talk about a lot in the therapy world, but we don't talk about it, let's say in like regular premarital counseling, if you do that, or as you're getting into relationships, like that's just not something we talk about often. So can you kind of break down those 4 attachment styles just a little bit more?
Yeah. So secure attachment style is when, there is just a healthy balance, right? So you feel secure, not saying that you're not going to feel anxious here and there, but the way you handle it, right? Whether it's through really effective communication or just really great conflict resolution skills with your partner, then you start to feel like, yeah, I'm still trusting of you.
Right.
I still feel safe with you. Right.
Yeah. Conflict doesn't necessarily throw you out of whack. Like
conflict is needed. Right. Otherwise, then how will you know each other's trigger points? Sure. How will you know what you both as partners need to work on, right? So conflict is going to happen regardless. We're 2 human beings coming into a relationship with different backgrounds at all times. So as human beings, we're trying to navigate how to maneuver with each other in a relationship. So secure attachment is when I still trust you. Yep. I still can confide in you. I still feel safe with you, and vice versa. Right. I can still make you feel safe. I can still listen to you and communicate with you, etc.
So even if I've had a big fight with my partner, it doesn't mean that the next day I feel unloved or like I'm worried that they're going to leave me, or it's like, well, that was a fight and we got to deal with that. But it doesn't mean...
we got through it.
And we got through it.
Yep. So the one that you mentioned where it's like, oh, I don't know if are you going to leave me and everything, that would be for the attachment, anxious attachment style. So that's one where you're just like, okay, like, I just don't know what to expect here. Right. I want to trust you, but I just don't know just yet. But I really want to be connected with you, but
I don't believe what you're saying.
Yeah. It's just hard. So you're just feeling on edge a lot, right? So the sense of security, the sense of safety is just not there just yet. So that's what a lot of my clients come in with, anxious attachment. Yeah. Another one is avoidant. So avoidant is when you're just really thriving off of your independence, right? But it's more so, you can be independent, right? All of us can be independent, but this independent is more so fearful. So it's like, okay, I think you're going to do something to me. Right. I'm anticipating for you to do me wrong.
I'm expecting the worst from you.
So I'm going to stay over here, not really connect with you, but I'm good because I'm independent.
Right.
I'm a strong woman.
Right. I'm just not showing my vulnerability because, exactly.
I can't show you my vulnerability because I don't know
what you're going to do with that.
I don't know what you're going to do with that. I don't know if I can trust you. Right. So that's more of an avoidant. And that, that's a lot of people as well have that because it's like, okay, I'm going to stay protective of myself.
Right.
I don't want to show you my vulnerable side. Right. I don't want to talk about anything too delicate with you.
It's just keeping that wall up. You can't hurt me if my wall is already up. We can get along. We can be partner, but I'm just gonna take care of myself.
Yeah. And you're not going to break down that wall.
Right. Yes.
You can try, but you're not going to break down the wall. Yeah. And that is my own safety. Right. And then the last one is disorganized. So disorganized attachment style is, it just feels chaotic.
Right.
You don't know what to expect. So maybe you are longing for that connection, but you don't know what to expect with your partner. So it just feels like there is no security. There's no stability. I see you as a person one day, but then the next day you turn your back on me.
Right.
And I don't know how to respond to that. And that will also create this anxiousness because now you just don't know what to expect.
Right. It's kind of a mix of those two things, right? Like, because I'm so anxious, I will also just not be vulnerable. I can't engage really in this relationship because I'm scared about what's going to happen. And I figure you're going to hurt me. And it's a lot of internal chaos. There's still that desire that some folks might have for, I want to be close, but I just can't be close, right? So it's a lot of that back and forth and that push and pull all going on inside of you.
Exactly. It's like that tug of war of like, okay, you're good to me one day, so I think I want to connect with you, but then the next day I'm pulling back because like you're just treating me wrong the next day, or there's just a lot of instability there. So so anxiety, I see, can show up in those last three attachment styles because either you don't know what to expect, or you're already anticipating something to go wrong, and so you're keeping yourself very protective, or you're just juggling between like connection, but I don't trust you all the way, and so I'm going to protect myself and keep myself safe.
Yeah, and we see these show up in all relationships. It's not like someone doesn't have an attachment style, right? Okay. We all have an attachment style, right? And I've heard from a lot of my clients too, like, well, what if I relate to some of a couple of different kinds? Like, yeah, that happens, right? That's okay. But typically we all kind of lean towards one more than the other. And one thing I think it's important to mention is that this is not intentional, right? It's not like I'm going into it saying, I'm going to not trust you.
Right.
It's a lot of subconscious. It's a lot of unconscious. It's all from our childhood, like you mentioned, right? And these patterns are put into place. I always define attachment as, once it's set, it's the way you view yourself, it's the way you view others, and it's the way you view your world. And, and so your view of those three things is kind of shaped by this attachment style. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this is also to say, like, it can shift over time.
Right.
We're not fixed in, okay, if I say I'm anxious attachment, then I'm always going to be anxious attachment. And so I'm never going to have a successful relationship.
Right.
That is, no,
that's not
we're
the
not
case.
saying that at all.
Right.
Like, as you learn about yourself, as you go through just getting more insight and just seeing what it is that you can change in your relationships and how you pick your partners, etc., then you may notice that your attachment style can shift and your anxiety may also change along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about ways that anxiety shows up in relationships. Can you give some examples of communication styles or errors or behaviors that we tend to see in that anxious attachment style within a relationship?
Yeah. So let's say you're feeling anxiety in relationships. One of the ways that we tend to communicate is by pointing out what the other person is doing wrong. So like, you didn't wash the dishes, so how dare you?
Yes.
Right?
How dare you?
So a lot of kind of blamey type of things. And again, so this is coming from parts of you that are really protective.
Right.
And so
it's not coming from a desire to hurt.
Correct.
It's coming out of a desire to protect.
Correct. And a lot of people misperceive that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when people feel blamed for something, oh, this is all you do. You're just nagging at me. You're just blaming me for everything. This is
you think it's all my fault.
Right.
Yeah.
But in reality, the person who is expressing their feelings towards you, that's just their own parts being protective. And that's just their way that they've learned how to communicate.
Right.
Whether it's right or not, but the intention is still out of pure protection over oneself.
I think that's a really important point. Thank you for sharing that, because I it's so hard sometimes. If I've heard this from clients who are on the other end of that, who are, maybe have a partner that has an anxious attachment style, and it does a lot of that, hey, you didn't do that, like points out all the things that they're doing wrong. And the person on the other end can feel like that's an attack and can feel like, do you even want to be in this? Why are you in this relationship with me? If this keeps happening, if I'm not making you happy, why are you even here? Right. And it can feel like an attack. So I think that's a really great perspective shift to look at it from, you're not attempting to hurt, you're attempting to protect.
And for the person who's receiving that, they may become defensive because the way they're receiving it is not the way, oh, you're just protecting yourself. No, you're blaming me.
Yeah, yeah.
And so now you have two people who are protecting their own system, right? Mm-hmm. And now you're just colliding because you're not able to listen to each other in a way that's more intended for the better in the relationship. So that's one way that anxiety can show up. Another way is, let's say someone just really desires to connect, but the other person is just not ready for that vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And so anytime you touch upon certain subjects, no, we're not going to go there.
Right. We're changing the subject.
Yeah, or we're just going to shift over here. And
oh, we're having weather. Oh, what do you know? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's for anyone who may not be ready to express something as vulnerable as like deeper feelings or anything. I've had clients who seek out relationships, and when I ask them like, hey, so what are some of the needs that those relationships meet for you? They're like, what are you talking about?
Oh yeah.
Well, what do you like about your partner? And it's all of these like on the surface qualities. And so what that tells me is, okay, there's something within you that doesn't feel ready or up to maybe getting a little bit deeper in your relationships or becoming more vulnerable. And that comes from somewhere.
Right.
We just don't know yet.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't got there yet.
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet, but that comes from somewhere. And even, kind of like in my own experience in parenting, anxiety, your own attachment style can also show up in parenting. So let's say that your child does something that is inappropriate or risky or just a misbehavior.
Breaks a rule.
Yeah, breaks a rule, right? As every child is expected to do.
Right, yeah.
But yet you are coming at your child like, how dare you? Don't you know any better, right? But in reality is as a child is developing, they're not going to be as logical as we adults are, right? And so that may be actually activating something in you,
right?
That is bringing up and showing and manifesting in this way that you may be going off on your child.
Yes.
So that can also show up even in parenting as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the other things that we often see from clients who come in presenting with an anxious attachment style is that expectation that they'll be abandoned, that somebody will leave them, right? This future fear. And so often we see a lot of people pleasing or, not creating healthy boundaries because I'll do whatever, just don't leave me, right? Yeah. And again, the other partner may not be putting that out in the world. They might not be trying to leave or trying to take advantage, but because the person's lens is already telling them that someone, you will be left, you will be abandoned, you'll be left alone. There's this almost like this anxious need to hold on to that relationship in any way possible. And that can end up driving conflict.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes with my clients who are in those type of relationships, usually it's a pattern. Right. These are the type of relationships that they tend to engage in where even though the threat may not be there, that the person could potentially leave them or abandon them, but their own people-pleasing parts or I have to perform to keep this person, right? So that also can happen and show up. And I'd say the main question that my clients tend to ask me is, why am I attracting the wrong people?
Yeah.
Right? And usually I say, well, is it you? Are you the one attracting the wrong person? Yeah. Or is there something that's driving you to stay in these cycles and patterns? Because I think the way that a lot of my anxious clients will see is that, okay, I'm the problem. And so this is my fault that I'm finding all these wrong people. But I try to challenge them and say, okay, well, let's explore that further because it may not even be that you are consciously picking these types of people out or that you're purposely pleasing and making sure that they don't leave you. There is a part of you, not all of you, that's driving the bus here.
Sure. Yeah. I like that parts idea, right? Like sometimes in therapy, we talk about parts work, like which part of you is driving this decision or which part of you is driving this action, right? Because it's not always all of you, right? There's a part of you that's trying to protect yourself.
Correct. So kind of see it as like, okay, a part of you is like a part of your personality. It's not all of you. So a lot of my clients tend to over-identify with their anxious attachment or with their anxiety. And that can be problematic because when you're over-identifying with it, then you're not able to see the flexibility that things can change within you. You're just thinking, I'm this anxious person, or I'm just anxiously attached. Yeah, this is the way it is, and I can never change. But no, yes, you can. But it all starts with really getting to know those parts of you that are driving that for you.
I'm not sure if you've had this experience. I'm sure you have, but we definitely have clients that come to Aspire that say, you know, I'm having trouble with this and this and this. I don't want to talk about my childhood though. It's not about that. I just want to focus on now. Right. And they're so linked, right? And I know it's kind of an old joke or trope that therapy, you know, you're going to lay down on the couch and say what your mom or dad did that made you mad. But there is so much truth to why that's needed. Can you kind of explain a little bit about why we have to go there?
Oh, absolutely. So yes.
So
a lot of clients will say, no, but I don't think anything happened, or I don't want to go there. I'm not ready to talk about it. And sure, I meet them where they are.
Right.
You know,
we're not going to force you.
We're not going to force you.
Yeah.
We won't have to talk about it. But I'm just giving you a warning. It may show up. And sometimes they're like, well, whatever, you know, I don't believe you, or okay, well, I guess we'll get there when we do. And so the reason why it is important that we address our upbringing is that when we are children, who do we look to for love, for nurture, for attention, etc.? Our parents, the people who bring, you know, raise us. Whether it's your parents or a caregiver or guardian, whoever it is. And so as children, not only are we observing our parents and their relationship, but we're also receiving whatever it is that our parents are giving us, right? So let's start with anxious attachment style. If your parent was, let's say, that you have more of a disorganized anxious attachment. What that tells me is that, okay, your parent was never consistent. Maybe your parent showed up one day and the next day they just ignored you all day and treated you like you weren't even present. Right. And so again, I tell my clients, fine, we don't have to talk about your childhood, but I'm just giving you a warning that it may show up. So in the line of work that I do, there are two modalities that I use primarily to address anxiety relationships. The one is internal family systems, IFS or parts work that a lot of people refer to as. And then the other one is accelerated resolution therapy. I'm going to call it ART for short because it's way too long of a label. And so whether it's IFS or ART, when we explore whatever it is that you're presenting with, your nervous system, your brain, your mind is going to tell us eventually where all of this is coming from. So no matter how hard you try to avoid the topic of your upbringing, your childhood, and your parents, and while I acknowledge, this is really painful stuff here. Right. But in whether it's the therapies that I use or another type of therapy that other therapists use, it is going to show up somehow.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I'm curious if you could give a couple of examples of that, about how, you know, maybe someone come in with, hey, I'm fighting with my partner, or I can't seem to hold down a relationship, and how maybe that came out, you know, to say like, oh, this is where that lens developed. This is where that part was created.
Yeah. So I'll talk about the IFS view, and then I'll talk about the ART view. So let's say in IFS, we're doing IFS therapy, and we're just like, okay, well, let's get to know that part of you that is just finding it really hard in this relationship. So let's say that's the part of you that is a fighter. You're just arguing all the time. You're just fighting. Not that you like to, but there's this part that's driving you too. And so as we get to know that part of you, every part usually has a story to tell. And so when we're diving deep with a part, sometimes I like to ask, okay, why don't you ask this part of you that fights, where it learned to do its job, or how did it learn to do its job. And what I find with some of my clients is that some of the responses that I get from those parts directly is that, oh, I remember when my mother used to blah, blah, blah. Right. So that's one way. And, but sometimes parts may or may not disclose, right?
Sure.
And so when we get to what's called the exile is the earlier version of us that has been shunned away because of how vulnerable it is. And so that's why we have these protector parts. When we get to the exile is usually the main one that's telling us, hey, this is the memory, or these are the things that have happened in this time in
patterns,
my life.
right?
And then this is where the pain started.
Yeah.
This is how the pain started to increase. Maybe the memory is, I observed my parents doing this and doing that. I'll even share personally in my own IFS therapy. I have had parts of me that have struggled to have a voice in relationships, in friendships, in parenting. Yeah. And so in my own therapy, getting to the exile, it always comes down to this one exile that I have where, she is 4 years old and I'm in the car and my parents are yelling at each other. And I'm like, stop it. And my parents are like, still yelling. Yeah. And the message that I got from that is my voice wasn't powerful enough to stop that fight. And so that part of me, those protective parts have shunned away my exile and have made me realize like, well, you're not going to have a voice. Right. Your voice doesn't matter. Yeah. And so that's a personal testimony.
What a powerful thing to uncover, right? What a power. So, because I'm assuming that once you uncover that exile and that part, then you can start to let it come forward.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And sometimes those parts of us that start with, okay, maybe this part kind of took away my voice, but this part has actually transitioned into becoming my advocate at times. Right. Yeah. So I've had that beautiful experience. So that's one way. And then if we talk about art, so art is bilateral stimulation. So usually we do it through left and right eye movements. Right. And so sometimes when clients come in and they're just like, I feel anxious in my relationship, but I just don't know why. I have such a great partner and they do this and do that, but I still feel so on edge. Yeah. I still feel like they're going to abandon me one day. And so usually that derives from something. And so in an art session through eye movements, we're just grabbing onto whatever feelings and sensations that the client is presenting with. And through the bilateral stimulation or eye movements, it's going to bring up the memory. Yeah. The very memory where your body learned this feeling or these sensations and your body has been carrying this on since then. And that happens within one session. Sure. So those are the two ways that I like to help clients to get to the origin of their anxiety in the relationships. But both are beautiful ways. And the beautiful thing about in therapy is that I think some people assume that when you go to therapy, you have to tell me every detail, but that's not the case.
That's not the case. No. Yeah.
I'm just guiding you. Right. The work that you're doing is all within you, and I'm just guiding you. And so whether it's an IFS or art and something very vulnerable is coming up, I'm always letting you know you don't have to share if you don't want to. Right.
Absolutely. It's always choice. Always choice.
Always choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing those examples. I think they're really powerful. And just to go back to taking the therapy concepts outside the therapy room and into the general public, can you define bilateral stimulation for our listeners?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. So bilateral stimulation is when you are pretty much doing some type of movement that allows your left and right side of the brain to communicate and join together. A lot of us don't realize that this is such a powerful means of healing. Yes. Because so many of us, including my clients, we like to stay in the left side of the brain, which is the logical side, but we can't logicalize or rationalize our pains, our traumas, our anxiety away. And that's why, when clients come to me, they're just like, yeah, I've been in therapy for years, but it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
What didn't work about it?
work?
Well, I would just talk.
Right.
And my therapist would validate me, but there wasn't anything else. And so with bilateral stimulation, for example, through eye movements, through left and right eye movements, you're helping those two parts of the brain to communicate.
Right.
Your logical part, but also the more creative and the more metaphorical and emotional side of your brain.
Right.
Which when the two communicate together, you can find just incredible, incredible healing.
Yeah.
And this helps to just kind of be able to bring up and release feelings and sensations within your nervous system.
Right.
Because you can't just think it away.
You can't just think it away. You have to feel some of these things, right? It's one of the challenges when you do decide to go to therapy is you have to feel some of these feelings that maybe you've been pushing down and pushing away. One of the things we encourage our clients to do sometimes is stand up and walk during therapy, like walk around the room. Or, we do telehealth therapy. And so sometimes my clients will be on their phone walking through their neighborhood, right? Just to get both arms and legs swinging and get those both hemispheres working together. And it's such a simple act, but we just don't do it very often.
Or we don't know, the public doesn't really know that this is something so simple that can be done. I think back to before doing therapy and just being in my 20s and texting my girlfriends like, hey, I want to go for a walk. And we would just vent and vent with each other. But realizing now, looking back, I'm like, because left and right.
Left and right. Yeah. Actually,
so powerful.
I had a couple that I worked with at one point in time, and they would get in these really just heated arguments at home. And one of them would end up yelling, and the other would shut down and say nothing, which would make the other person angrier because they felt like, oh, you're not communicating to me. Don't you have anything to say? Don't you care? And the person who was shutting down would feel like you're being so mean. Can't you hear it? So they ended up deciding with their therapist or with me, and that they would go on walks when they felt a conflict coming. And they wanted to talk it out. They would say, let's go on a walk. And so they said it kept their reactions in check because they're like, well, we're in public. So, I'm not going to maybe scream or yell or cuss at you. And it kept the other person talking, right? Because they're moving and they're talking and they can't just shrink away. And so that walk fight worked so well for them.
And I don't think people realize that through bilateral stimulation like that, it still creates a calm.
Right. Helps regulate the nervous system.
Yes. Right. And it's so powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Yeah. I'm gonna coin that term, walk fight. We're gonna start walk fighting. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love
that.
That's
awesome. So you mentioned some good news already that our attachment styles are not fixed, right? Can you speak more to how we can intentionally work on and heal some of the anxious or avoidant attachment we might find showing up in our relationships?
Absolutely. I think it all starts with awareness. Being aware of what you do in relationships, how you show up in relationships. If you're single, for example, and maybe you're just finding yourself in these patterns and these cycles of, okay, why am I always attracting the same type of person, right? So even just that simple sense of awareness is important for you to have.
Yeah.
Bring curiosity, right? You can be all the self-aware that you can be, but if you're not bringing curiosity into what your story may be, then change is not going to come, right?
Yeah.
So whether you're single or let's say that you're in a relationship and your partner is telling you like, hey, like the way you're talking to me just makes me feel little, for example. Or maybe you're just finding yourself just so anxious and you just don't know how to bring up certain subjects with your partner because maybe you're fearful of your partner's reaction. Right. That sense of awareness is also pretty important. So whether you're single or you're dating, being aware of what is showing up for you. Bringing curiosity into what your story may be.
How do I do that? Like how, just as a general person outside of the therapy room, how do I bring curiosity? What's some examples of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll explain this from like an IFS perspective.
Sounds great.
Right. Yeah. So let's say you're starting off with maybe your people pleasing part.
Yeah.
That's showing up in relationships. And so when we try to explore your people pleasing part, but maybe you're worried, you're hesitant about it. And so what that tells me is that, okay, there's still the other part that's bringing some concern about you getting to know your people pleasing part. So once we start to maneuver and you find yourself just more with like the way I describe curiosity is like a childlike curiosity, like
wonder.
Yeah, like I wonder why. Versus like, oh, like we have to talk about this today. Or let's say I have a lot of clients who have curiosity, but it's more of like a investigative type of thing where it's like, yeah, I'm curious.
Outwardly focused curiosity.
I'm curious. Let's get to know this. But it's not, you're not presenting with like a curiosity of like, oh, I just wonder. You're more so you have an agenda, right?
That's a great way to put that.
You have an agenda. And so when you get to know those parts of you and you're coming in with the agenda, that part is not going to be trusting of you to tell its story.
Yeah.
So bringing curiosity into what you may know, for example, your people pleasing part, and let's say like you worded it perfectly. It's like this wonder of like, yeah, I just really do wonder, like, why? Yeah. Why does this part of me like to people please and show up in relationships, right? And so that's one way of bringing curiosity is first to address like, okay, are any parts of you worried or hesitant or concerned about getting to know these protector parts of you, and why, and their stories?
Yeah,
right?
I like the way you said that because I think sometimes, like you said, we can almost we know that we have something we need to look into, but we do it with judgment. We already feel like something's wrong with me. And why is this happening? I got to fix this. And when we come into something with an already negative perspective, we're already almost angry at ourselves for having that part of us, that piece that's showing up, that attachment lens that's presenting itself, then we can't really be safe enough to get to the answer, right? You've already judged it, and no matter what you come up with, it's like, that's not good enough. And so taking that judgment out, when we talk about curiosity with our clients, we talk about like, no right answer. Like you're really wondering, you're not coming in and saying, well, this is already what I think, but really asking yourself, I don't know where this came from. Let me think on that. Let me wonder. I love the storytelling piece, right? Can you think of the first time you felt like you needed to defend yourself? Or like you said, that example you gave was so powerful about the first time you felt like your voice wasn't heard. And I think that storytelling piece is so powerful because it opens up that answer, the many whys, right? Like, oh, I didn't put together that this happened multiple times for me. There's a pattern in my childhood. Right. Oh, now I can see how that's showing up in my adult relationships. Right.
And so when you do show up with that judgment, right, your parts are not going to tell you the story, right? But I believe that a lot of when we come in with this agenda to investigate and to be judgmental about those parts of us or the stories, all of that I believe stems from shame and guilt that so many of us have carried for so many years, or we've been conditioned to feel ashamed about something, or we've been conditioned to shame ourselves or to feel guilty about something. And so when someone is presenting with that like judgment, I'm like, okay, there is some type of shame or guilt down here that we'll need to address first before we can actually become curious with wonder, with that childlike innocence and curiosity about what the root of this could be.
I know this may be a weird question to ask because you probably don't know offhand, but if you could estimate how many of your clients present with an underlying feeling of shame or guilt.
100%.
Okay. That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
100%. And a lot of it usually stems from beliefs.
Core beliefs.
Yeah. From early
attachment, early childhood, guys. We're going back to attachment. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Oh man, this is why we can't separate these things. They are so attached, and that those experiences you have early on with your caregivers, whoever those people are, and the way they make you feel about yourself. Like I said, we talk about it like, okay, this is how it develops your sense of self and how you view others and how you view yourself in the whole world, whether the world is safe or dangerous. Right. It all goes back to that. And if that piece isn't secure, then it's just all, kind of comes up.
Absolutely. So a lot of our core beliefs that we've been burdened with usually have started in our childhood.
Yes.
So I would say 100%
Have
my
some shame and
clients,
guilt.
they may not realize it then, right?
Right.
Because that shame and guilt can be so deep.
So deep rooted, right? So much deep rooted shame, so much deep rooted guilt. And again, I think outside of the therapy world, we don't talk about, it's not like I get together with my friends over margaritas and say, hey, what did you feel shame about this week? When did you feel guilty, right? Sometimes I feel like as moms, we do kind of open up about that mom guilt. But outside of that, I think it's not really talked about, but yet it is underlying in so much and shows its head in relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The good news, we can work on this, right? We can recognize, once we recognize and have some awareness around our attachment style and how it's showing itself in relationships, we can work on it. That's the great news. So let's talk about how. How do we make efforts to change the way we work in relationships, given all that we are bringing with us from our attachment style?
Honestly, I think before any relationship or even at the start of a relationship, I truly believe everybody should do some type of counseling.
Yeah.
If you're serious about really pursuing this with your partner, I truly believe in counseling. And the reason why I say that is because, again, it's like these are two human beings coming together with two totally different life stories, right? Two totally different histories of trauma, histories of pains and wounds, right? And so, yes, we can try to navigate as much as we can, but we're going to hit some roadblocks regardless, right? And sometimes we don't know how to handle those roadblocks ourselves.
Right.
And so being able to see a counselor where both of you are able to understand each other's stories, learn about each other's stories in a space where it feels like you're able to be safely guided through it.
Sure.
I truly believe that would be something that would benefit a relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think every relationship would benefit from some counseling, and I think each person benefits from some counseling. We might be biased; we're therapists, so outside of that, let's say outside of the therapy office, what's something that I could do? Let's say I think I might have some anxiety in my relationship, or anxiety is driving some of the ways I view what my partner does, whether or not they're intending to give me that meaning behind what they're doing. That's how I'm taking it, right? Like I'm seeing it through this lens. What are some ways to start healing that a little bit?
Well, first you want to be able to familiarize yourself with whatever feelings that you're having, right? Because the more you try to suppress or run away from, for example, your anxiety, you're not going to be able to know how you should be showing up or how better you can show up in this relationship. So first, being able to actually sit and notice your anxiety is going to be number one thing, I think, because something as critical and sacred as a relationship is going to bring up some of those more vulnerable emotions and feelings. So I think being able to just sit with anxiety, just allow yourself to feel it. Well, first of all, because you're human. Yeah. And second of all, because you're noticing something that is activating you. Right. So being aware that, okay, there's something that is bringing me this anxiety, or there's something that's making me feel sad about this relationship. Yeah. Right. So being able to sit with that, and kind of like what you said earlier, without judgment. Without judgment. Like you can't be like, I'm sad and oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm sad because how dare I feel sad.
Right. I've got this great partner and what's wrong with me? Right. Yeah.
Right. But there's something that's happening that is becoming a trigger, right? And a lot of my clients will say that it's like, I can't believe I feel this way when my husband or my partner is doing X, Y, and Z so well. Yeah. Well, just know that your nervous system is still giving you a cue about something that's happening, right? So being able to sit with those emotions, right? And then asking yourself, okay, what is my partner doing that is whatever it is, that's the trigger, right? And noticing, okay, is it because something might have happened before? Or, for example, maybe this person had a rough day at work and maybe your partner's coming home and just being very like snappy or whatever the case may be. And it's so hard for you to not take it personal. But when you think about, okay, so what might have happened beforehand, right? What might have made them more susceptible to being this irritable type of person at this moment, right?
So really trying to gain perspective on their interactions besides with just you, right? Like recognizing like there's a whole day that happened, not just this moment where they came home and they snapped at me.
Correct. Because something might have made them, again, susceptible to feeling vulnerable. And maybe that vulnerability is coming out as irritability or frustration or whatever the case may be. Now, if you two try to communicate about it and you guys were able to express to each other, like, yeah, like you came here, you were snappy and oh my gosh, I just felt so angry with you. How dare you do that? Then that's going to collide, right? But if you're just saying, hey, like something that I tell my clients is, again, with parts, a part of me realized that when you came home, maybe a part of you might have felt irritable about something. And I guess I'm just wondering what's happening here. Or, hey, a part of me noticed that you came yelling through the door and a part of me just felt very belittled in that moment, right?
Yeah.
So something that I tell my clients is naming those parts, right? Because previously, before I learned about IFS, we learned about what's called I statements.
Right, I statements, yes.
I feel this, right? Because you did that, which may work for some people. But I feel like with those I statements, you may be over-identifying with one feeling when we actually are just more complex.
So complex, right?
Yeah, we're much more complex humans in that. And so when you start to name, like, yeah, a part of me felt sad about this, but then a part of me felt really angry that you came through the door and whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah, took it out on me, even though...
You took it out on me. And a part of me wonders if this is really what you're meant to do.
Sure.
Or a part of me wonders, hey, well, am I just a target in this moment? So
do you feel like the language saying part versus saying I'm angry or not only does it allow the complexity, but do you feel like it somehow softens the message?
I believe so, because now you're just breaking down to your partner, hey, these are the parts of me that become activated when a part of you is coming home irritated and yelling at the door, right? Versus like, yeah, like I feel this. And then that's all you're going to be focusing on is like, I feel this versus like a part of me is this. And then I notice a part of you is that. So I just feel like it's like a more gentle approach and being able to identify like, hey, I'm feeling this, but these are also parts of me that are showing up in this moment as well. Yeah. Just like with you. Hey, I noticed a part of you came yelling through the door and I'm just wondering if maybe you were being, maybe you had a bad day at work and maybe a part of you didn't actually mean to do that in this moment.
So there's a little bit of grace in there as well, rather than assuming intention. And I think that's one thing that we talk with our clients at Aspire a lot about is assuming intention, right? I'm seeing the action, but I don't know what your intention is, but I assume it. Often I assume it. You wanted to hurt me or you didn't care about me or like really making something about me when maybe it has nothing to do with me. And so we often bring that perspective up. Like, could this not have even been about you? Could the story not have been about you? Right? Bringing that perspective to the table.
And hey, if a client is presenting with that where it's like, I feel like it is about me and you're coming in here and you're targeting me. And so what that tells me is like, okay, there is a very vulnerable part of you that's being activated and maybe using emotions and your voice to express whatever it is that maybe you've been suppressing for so long. So I think in that approach, it's like, okay, I kind of hear maybe like an exile in there that's speaking. And now your protector parts are like, oh, okay, you said enough. Now let's fight. Let's argue. Let's do whatever, whatever, however you handle conflict in that moment. Yeah. So, So even when clients assume, right? Hey, I hear a part of you just assumed. Just assume that you believe that your partner did this because they're unhappy with you.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. What you just gave some great communication ideas. Are there other communication skills or techniques that you teach your clients or recommend for somebody who, again, might feel a lot of anxiety in a relationship? They might feel like we just breaking it down what we said earlier today, nervous about somebody might leave if I'm not perfect, or nervous that I'm always wrong in this relationship, or nervous that I can't do anything right, or all these different ways that anxiety does show up within our relationship. Can you break down just a few more communication skills that like maybe we could start using today? If I feel like that's me, I'm listening to this podcast, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. What could I do? Some other strategies to change the way I'm showing up.
I will say this, I'm guilty of this,
okay,
right?
Yeah.
In the beginning of my marriage, I was not the type to give space when my husband needed it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I had a part to me that were really activated, like, no, we got to resolve this right now in this moment, right. But I'm still so angry, so I'm still going to tell you off.
Yeah.
And that's not productive, right? And so one thing that I have learned is space, right? If you and or your partner need space, that is okay.
Right.
You need that space because when you're activated, your protective parts are going to be running the show.
Right.
Which is going to trigger your partner's protective parts to run the show as well. Or vice versa. Maybe your partner's the one who has the issue and maybe their protective parts are going to fight, right? And now your protective parts are activated. And so in that moment, there's no reasoning.
Absolutely.
There is
both prefrontal cortexes are offline, right? We're not having any rational conversation at this point in time.
And it's not going to be productive. And that can result into saying things, doing things that you're going to regret.
Right. Saying things you don't mean, saying things that aren't true.
And that's going to be quite the rupture. And how do we get back? Right. And so if you know in this moment that parts of you are really activated and you're not able to unblend, meaning you're not able to separate or give space from those parts of you, then you just know they're going to be driving the bus and there might be some painful, hurtful words that are going to be said.
Right.
And you may not really want that to happen. So when you recognize like, okay, like I feel so upset and I don't know how to give that part of me some space because that part is so blended with me. I need to go into the other room. I need to take a breather at this moment and sit with that part of me, right?
Yeah.
So that way I can better understand why it's not able to distance itself from me. And maybe perhaps see, okay, where is this coming from? And the same thing with your partner. If your partner really needs that space, it takes two to tango, right? So being able to honor that need for your partner, but still knowing like, okay, we're gonna give each other some space. We're still gonna have to come back to resolve this communication issue, right? Or to resolve this fight. And because there is one way to go about this. Some people, when they give each other space and then they come back and pretend like nothing ever happened.
Right.
But where's the solution to it? Okay, you don't resolve it right now. It's going to come back.
You're going to have the same fight later.
It's going to come back.
Yeah.
So you might as well, give some space. If you know that either party is not able to separate from those protector parts, but then making sure that you make the intention to return to the conversation to resolve it when you're both just much more unblended from those protector parts of you that maybe in the beginning wanted to drive that argument. Yeah.
So you've had some time to calm down, for your nervous system to regulate, to think more clearly, and to have that conversation not in an activated state where I'm having all these big feelings pop up and I'm so angry and I'm going to say things I regret, but come back to it. So what would you tell someone who sees giving space in a conflict as avoidance? Like, oh, well, you're walking away or you're not saying anything right now. You're avoiding this. What encouragement would you give them that space is okay?
That's a great question. So I think for someone who views giving space as, okay, now you're trying to avoid the argument, your partner's trying to avoid the argument, right? So take that as a signal to yourself that this may be part of your own story, right? Okay, there's something about someone walking away and needing space that's giving you the message that they're trying to avoid. And we don't know the intention in that moment.
Again, that
just
goes
yet.
back to assuming intentions.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
And so maybe taking that as a signal like, I wonder why am I assuming or thinking this way, right? So that's one thing. The second thing is, okay, let's say you're giving each other space, and maybe the person is like, well, you're probably only giving space to avoid this conflict right now. But you're still, the key point is to make the intention to return back. Right? So that the conversation can be revisited. Yeah. And maybe you are verbalizing then like, hey, a part of me, when you say you need a space, a part of me felt like you were just trying to avoid the issue. And maybe you can present it as a conversation piece. Like, I'm wondering if that was true for you. And if it was, is there anything that you want to recognize about that? Or maybe this is something that you bring into your own inner work.
You know, you just said something so simple, but yet so powerful. And it's the asking about someone's intentions, right? Because you're right. We make so many assumptions. We make so many guesses. So to say, this is how this presented to me, but is that accurate or not? And being, you know, sometimes maybe we're right. Maybe that was the intention or that is accurate, but a lot of times maybe we're not, right? And so being open to saying, I misinterpreted that. Thank you for sharing. And having that, I think, boldness and courage to, within your relationship, say, this is how I saw this. This is what we use this in parenting language a lot. What meaning did you make from that action, right? What meaning did I create out of that behavior? I know you meant to do this, or this is what that means. But that's in my head, from my story and my experiences. And so being able to stop and say, okay, this is what I thought that meant. What did you actually mean by that?
And maybe your partner will say, you know what? I think a part of me did want to avoid in that moment. And that could be a whole different discussion,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Or maybe your partner would be like, no, like I honestly really needed some space because I thought I was going to say something I might regret. Right. So being able to understand okay, if you feel like your partner is avoiding it through giving of this space, see that's a signal for yourself to recognize, okay, is this something within me that's why I'm assuming that they're being avoidant? And then 2, making the intention to return and bringing that up if that is something that you feel is important to verbalize. Hey, a part of me felt like maybe a part of you wanted to avoid this conversation by space. But in that intention of returning, when you're expressing that, both of you should hopefully be unblended from your protective parts, that you're able to have a better conversation versus earlier in the fight. Yeah. When everything escalated.
Yeah. Can you translate unblended into like non-therapy speak?
Yeah. So unblended is when parts of you, let's say it's a feeling, right? So let's say you're feeling really, really anxious and you just know you're feeling anxious and there's no other way out. That's blended. Unblended meaning like, okay, I still feel like the anxiety is here, but I'm able to feel more of who I am. Yeah. Like the anxiety, let's kind of like an example of like, okay, I'm walking with my anxiety. Yeah. But my anxiety is not me. It's not me walking.
It's not like the controlling feeling.
Correct.
It's still present. I still got
it's still
some of
there,
that. Yeah.
Right? Because that feeling may not be resolved. And so, but there is more of a distance or a space where you don't feel as intense or overwhelmed by it. Right. So being unblended meaning you're less overwhelmed. Yeah. And there's just more spaciousness with you and a feeling of yours, or maybe it's a thought or a sensation.
Yeah. Well, this is all really good, really helpful. What are some other just general communication tips you'd give within a relationship? Not just for folks that are anxiety driven in their attachment style, but just in general to promote healthy communication, especially when there's a lot of high conflict.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the parts language here, because again, we are complex human beings. Yeah. So being able to express those different parts of us in a relationship when there is a conflict or there is a communication issue. Given space, like I said, if needed, when needed, especially when you're too blended with one of your parts. Yeah, I would say one thing that I think a lot of people make mistakes with is over involving other people
Okay.
in your relationship. It's one thing to have a support system where you can like vent to and everything. But when you start to involve different people into it and there's too many conflicting opinions and comments, and that's going to create more tension in a relationship. And so just being able to, I tell my clients, recognize who your wise counsel is.
Yeah.
Versus like, hey, I'm going to tell my friend who's single and living it out about my marital issue. Yeah. And they're going to tell you from their perspective.
Sure. Right. Wise counsel. Yeah. That's good advice. Yeah.
So just wise counsel, recognizing who that is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If, for example, if you know that your parents are going to be over involved, they're not going to be the wise counsel that you need. Wise counsel could be another couple that you know have been through it or have years under their belt and they've been through the ups and downs, and maybe you're looking at them as a way to provide you that support.
Sure.
Maybe it's people from organizations that you're part of, like a church, right? Like maybe it's a pastor or marital pastor, you know, any ministries that could be involved. So I would say that one piece of advice is just ensuring that you have wise counsel that can hold you accountable, but also support you along the way. But first being able to recognize who that wise counsel is for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. I think that, you know, because a lot of times we do struggle with needing to vent it out to someone and just being thoughtful about who that person is, so that you're getting, like you said, the right kind of advice and not just like, girl, leave him,
right.
you know? Yeah.
Let's go get margaritas now.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, we all need community. Right? Like, so outside of you, outside of your relationship with your partner, there is still such a need for community and a sense of belonging with the right people, with the wise counsel. So that is something that you don't want to undermine.
Oh, it's really powerful. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think we often tell our clients that therapy is a piece of that, but it's not a permanent piece, right? Therapy is meant to be a tool, but your long-term wise counsel will often be in your life outside of the therapy realm, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So making sure you have people and finding those relationships, investing in that, I think that's really, really sound advice.
Yeah. And people with wisdom that can tell you, right, from experience or from what they've learned. But yeah, just recognizing who not to involve in your issues or who to go to when both of you are struggling in communication, aside from therapy.
Sure. Right. And you've already provided some really great communication strategies, but just in general, there are other tips or strategies that you can offer that would just help us strengthen our relationship right away. If I want to go home and strengthen my relationship, make it better with my partner, what's one or two things I could try right away?
Maybe both of you being able to recognize what parts of you have shown up in the relationship.
Okay.
Yeah. So for example, let's say that maybe you tell your partner that you're recognizing that a part of you is trying to please too much. And so you realize along the way that your needs are not met because you're so focused on meeting your partners. So maybe just verbalizing with one another, like, okay, these are parts of me that have shown up or that I recognize that can show up eventually in a relationship. So for example, these might be people pleasing parts. These might be critical parts. These might be, fighter parts, right? And so for you guys to be able to just maybe sit down and reflect on, okay, what parts of me have shown up that maybe we didn't realize before, or maybe came off so strongly and caused some type of rupture or caused some type of wound in relationship. So being able to recognize that in a relationship might be helpful for both of you to get to know, okay, these are my parts that have shown up, but hey, I'm learning more about your parts. And seeing, okay, like, oh, that's why you said what you said when we fought about money or argued about money at that point. So I think just even recognizing what parts have shown up. So that way you guys will start to have more of an idea of what you're working with when an argument comes up. And maybe you're just recognizing like, hey, I know an argument's happening right now, but I remember you mentioning that you have this like this fighter part, and maybe that fighter part is present right now. Okay, do we need some space to be able to unblend from that a little bit? Or, hey, I know I told you before, we're having an argument right now, and I feel like that vulnerable part of me is coming up, and I just don't know how I can communicate right now in this moment. Right. Then, are we able to give each other some space?
Sure. Kind of asking for that space and saying like, hey, we note with, again, the intention, knowing we will revisit, but after we've had time to process. Yeah. And I find this in relationships all the time, that we tend to have different processing speeds, right? Someone might be quick to recognize what they're feeling and understand why this is a problem for them, and they're ready to have that discussion. And the other partner may need a lot more time to figure out, I'm kind of shut down now. What am I actually feeling about this? What am I actually thinking about this? And they need a lot more time to process. And that in itself can cause a lot of conflict, because it can feel like this disconnect, like we're not on the same page here, but really it's just different processing speeds.
Correct. And those are different parts of you. And so we can't expect that my part's going to be exactly like my partner's parts. Again, we're two totally different human beings, and we're much more complex. But again, making the intention of like, okay, maybe I need to process more quickly than you, but we'll make the intention to return back into this space somehow.
So just revisiting how we kind of got to this place, talking about attachment and our childhood experiences and how it leads to how we show up in relationships. What's one thing you'd recommend to parents to help decrease the likelihood that their child will develop anxiety as an adult, right? Again, we all feel anxious. Anxious is a normal feeling, right? So we're not talking about you'll never be anxious. Everyone gets anxious, but anxiety as kind of a driver in our day-to-day thoughts and feelings. So as a parent, how can I show up to my child to help decrease that likelihood?
Do your inner work. Yeah. Because however your child is behaving, right? A lot of it is psychologically expected in their development, right? But if you feel like it's activating something within you, that you're just so overwhelmed, you're so frustrated, and you know that, okay, I can't operate like this. I can't parent like this. Then do your inner work, because what's triggering for you is something that, maybe may have happened in your own story. Sure. And so for you to show up better, you may have to do that inner work within yourself. So that way you're able to be even better for your child.
So you can be more consistent and less activated when they do something inevitably that frustrates you, because kids are kids. It's going to happen. It's totally appropriate for that to happen. But recognizing, okay, I'm having a stronger emotional response than is warranted by this behavior, right? Is that kind of your clue to do something?
Yep, absolutely. Okay. And just knowing as parents that just because you were raised one way, you can break that story. Yeah, right. You can create your own story out of that, because you are able to show up better for your child. Yeah. And in the process of showing up better for your child, you are also providing that reparative experience for your own earlier self that might have been wounded from your own parent. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the kind of the message we wanted to get out today, right? That this is hopeful, right? We all show up with, different pieces of us being activated based on what we've experienced before, these different styles of how we view ourselves in relationships and in the world and how we view ourselves. And all of that is healable, right? All of that can be addressed. We can make progress. We can change the way we show up in relationships. We can change the shame and guilt that underline our thinking. We can heal and change the way I fight and bring stuff up to my partner, or don't fight and shut down, or all of that stuff can be healed and be changed, right? And I think that's the good news of this whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Our brains are capable of doing that through just a lot of the things that our brain is made up with, and the different neural pathways and everything. Yes. That's why we're able to change and shift things and heal. Right. Because we're not meant to just be on this. If we were stuck on our own story, I think all of us would be very operating out of so much pain, right? But because everything is manageable and workable and solvable and healable, we can continue to show up even better for ourselves, for our partners, for our kids. Yeah. And that's the beauty of just knowing that your story doesn't have to stay fixed. Your story doesn't have to just stay the way that it's been. Your story can change.
You can write a different ending from where you're headed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, it's powerful. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
This was a lot of fun. Great conversation. You have such great insights and great suggestions and ideas for us. So thank you again for joining us. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next time on the Aspire Podcast.